Congressman Ro Khanna, member of the House Oversight Committee. Congressman, you were furious last week, blaming the hedge funds, blaming Robinhood, blaming clearinghouses for not allowing people to trade, saying it was unfair. What did you want done differently?
We need to regulate the hedge funds. There are two things that could be done differently. One, we need more capital requirement before hedge funds can short. Two, there was a rule in place from 1938 to 2007. It's called the uptick rule. It restricts short selling to prevent exactly this kind of situation. That was repealed as a giveaway to Wall Street. We need to reinstate the uptick rule. And three, we need better capital requirements on Robinhood. They can't be promising in their terms of service that they trade and not have the reserve requirements. These are common sense reforms for Wall Street that would get to many of the problems that your segment highlighted.
But that's sort of the issue, sir. The reason Robinhood couldn't service their clients is they didn't have the money to do so. So do they need to change their terms of service? People didn't realize they signed up for Robinhood assuming they were getting a full-service broker. And when stress was on and the rubber hit the road, Robinhood couldn't deliver.
You're absolutely right, Stephanie, and this is why they need more reserves. I mean, they were undercapitalized, and they need to be honest. And they need to.
Sorry, continue.
Go ahead. And they need to be honest in their terms of service. If there is a threshold point with which they can't trade beyond, then they need to disclose that. I would say they need higher capital requirements, but at the very least, they need more transparency.
Then can we have things like free trades, a free broker? We want to democratize markets, but when you see platforms like Robinhood do that, then they're selling all their order flow to a firm like Citadel. Nothing is actually for free.
You're absolutely right. That's how they make their revenue. They take your data and they sell it to the hedge fund. So it isn't technically free. I'm all for democratizing the market, but not a market that is a gambling market where the hedge funds have a huge advantage. And this is why we need, you can't have hedge funds short these stocks, go on television, then talk about selling them. The big guys almost always are going to win in that game. Yes, we had some retail investors who succeeded this time. That's great. It was wrong that Robinhood suspended the trade. But in the long run, if we don't have fundamental reforms that make it harder for short sellers, that have higher capital requirements, that have higher transparency requirements, we're not going to succeed. And one other point, 50% of Americans aren't in the stock market, so we really need to be talking about the stagnation of wages and those left out of the economy and the over-financialization of our economy.
Well, those are two different things. I do want to talk about what brought so many of these small investors together. Elizabeth Warren is asking the SEC to investigate these anonymous message boards on Reddit. We have no idea who's actually hyping these stocks up and what their motives are. Does that worry you?
Senator Warren, I think, is right to point out that these are not all retail investors. You could have hedge funds on both sides. And what she's saying is, are there hedge funds that were manipulating the process and gaining as well? So I'm all for the retail investors. I think there's a different rule if you're buying $1,000, $2,000 a stock versus if you're a hedge fund that is actually trying to game the system. And that's what Senator Warren, I think, is calling for in investigating it.
Congressman, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it this morning.